Welcome back to France 24. We are live from Paris. The headlines this hour. Mike Bloomberg qualified for tomorrow's Democratic debate in Vegas after surging in the polls nationally. The billionaire former mayor of New York is likely to get challenged on discriminatory policing practices during his term in office. A new study from China indicates the elderly and the sick are most at risk of dying if infected by the coronavirus. This as the number of infection surges past 72,000. And a Russian artist and his girlfriend have been charged by authorities in France. This after the leaking of a sex video toppled the candidacy of Emmanuel Macron's pick for mayor of Paris. Mike Bloomberg will see his profile raised nationally tomorrow, this as he takes a debate stage alongside Democratic hopefuls intent on unseating Donald Trump. According to a recent poll, the 78-year-old billionaire and former mayor of New York has 19% support nationally. He's been spending hundreds of millions of dollars of his own money defining himself in a TV ad campaign. Earlier, I spoke to our correspondent Ketevan Gurjasani on Bloomberg's recent clash with Bernie Sanders.
Michael Bloomberg actually just last month again repeated that no matter who the nominee is, he will be putting his money and his staff behind that nominee in hopes of beating Donald Trump, because that is his ultimate goal. But of course, the battle with Bernie has become very heated because, of course, all the rivals have been attacking Michael Bloomberg, especially on the fact that he's spending so much money. But no one has gone after him as hard as Bernie Sanders. One of Bernie Sanders's campaign officials even calling him on Twitter, calling Mike Bloomberg a racist authoritarian. So it gives you an idea of how hard the attacks are. And Mike Bloomberg is responding. He so far has been attacking Donald Trump in his TV advertisement. But just yesterday, he put out his first attack ad against a Democratic rival, and that was against Bernie Sanders and the way that Bernie Sanders supporters attack and insult and threaten candidates online, and how Bernie Sanders is not doing anything about it. And that is really a sign that he is going after Bernie Sanders. Now, the question is, when the race is over and there is a nominee, no one says that it's going to be Sanders or Bloomberg, but it is one of those two men. There is the specter of 2016 again, and that divided Democratic Party, and seeing how Bernie Sanders and Mike Bloomberg can come and unite in the hopes of beating Donald Trump is very, very hard when you see the way they're attacking each other right now.
Ketevan Gurjasani reporting there earlier from Washington. Now, jurors in Harvey Weinstein's rape trial have begun deliberations. Their decision may well hang on the testimony of 3 women who were not part of the criminal case. The trio were called by prosecutors to establish Weinstein's pattern of behavior. If he's convicted on the most serious charge, predatory sexual assault, the former movie producer will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Olivia Salazar-Winspear reports.
Feeling good, that's how Harvey Weinstein summed up what should be his last day in court in New York, as the jury now retire to deliberate on his fate. More than a month after his trial began, 7 men and 5 women will now consider the 2 charges against him of sexual assault and rape dating back to 2006 and 2013. This, in addition to the accounts of women who've taken to the witness stand and painted him as a sexual predator, referring to past experiences.
We're looking forward to a just result. We'll see what the jury thinks, but no matter what happens in this case today or whenever they deliver their verdict, if they can reach a verdict, this case is continuing in Los Angeles.
Indeed, LA prosecutors also have a criminal case open against Harvey Weinstein on 4 counts of sexual assault. Since 2017, more than 80 women have accused the movie producer of sexual misconduct, kicking off the Me Too movement. Weinstein has consistently said that any sexual encounters were consensual. Now his lawyers say they're confident about the outcome.
It's very rare that the defense has so many facts in their corner, and Donna Rotuno did an excellent job letting the jury know how this case failed miserably to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
Weinstein's lead defence lawyer, Donna Rotunno, has been warned by Justice James Burke not to speak to the press while the jury's deliberating. This comes after her comments discrediting the movie producer's accusers were published by a magazine and broadcast in a radio interview.
Over 72,000 people are infected with the coronavirus, the majority in mainland China. The daily rate of new infections has slowed for the first time since the end of January. Chinese authorities have published the findings from a major study on the virus. Now, it shows the elderly and those already sick to be most at risk of death, with medical staff especially susceptible to infection. Brian Quinn reports.
The largest ever epidemiological study of the COVID-19 virus. China's Center for Disease Control and Prevention has released details from a review of more than 44,000 cases of coronavirus during the country's ongoing outbreak. The central province of Hubei, where the virus emerged, the hardest hit, with a death rate of 2.9%. As of February 11th, Chinese figures showed 72,436 infections and 1,868 deaths. Nationwide, the official fatality rate stands at 2.3%. The CCDC says 80% of cases have been mild. Most vulnerable to severe effects are the elderly, with a 14.8% fatality rate for those 80 and older. For those 70 to 79, the death rate drops to 8%, with those 69 and younger marking a rate of 3.5% and lower. Particularly at risk also are medical staff, repeatedly exposed to patients suffering from the disease. There have been over 1,700 confirmed cases of COVID-19 among health workers, 6 of whom have died, including the 51-year-old president of Wuchang Hospital in Hubei province on Tuesday. Beijing says symptom onset peaked from the 23rd to the 26th of January, then declined up to February 11th, the last day of data included in the study. 12,000 people have reportedly already recovered from the disease. The authors point to the government's vast quarantine operation that's placed tens of millions of residents of several cities in lockdown as one of the keys to reining in the spread of the virus. They warn, however, that with many people now returning home from extended holidays, a resurgence remains possible.
Brian Quinn there with that report. Now, Russian artist at the center of a sex video made public that toppled the candidacy of Emmanuel Macron's pick for mayor of Paris has been charged. Piotr Pawlensky's girlfriend, the woman who received the video from Benjamin Griveaux back in 2018, has also been charged with invasion of privacy and publishing images of a sexual nature without consent. Julia Kim reports.
Placed under formal investigation. Alexandra de Tadeo and Piotr Pawlensky face charges of invasion of privacy and publishing images of a sexual nature without consent. Both have been placed under judicial supervision, which prevents them from having any contact with each other. 29-year-old de Tadeo maintains that the sex videos were meant for her, but denies making them public. Her boyfriend, Pawlensky, published the images of Benjamin Griveaux masturbating on his website. They were then shared by public figures on Twitter. Pawlensky said he did it to expose the, quote, hypocrisy of the married father of 3. Griveaux, an ally of President Macron, had put family values at the heart of his mayoral campaign. He subsequently dropped out of the race. The Paris public prosecutor has launched a second, separate investigation into the Russian artist for his involvement in a knife fight at a New Year's Eve party. A political refugee who arrived in France in 2017, Pawlensky took legal advice from extreme left lawyer Juan Branco. The 30-year-old is currently being investigated for ethics violations by the Paris Bar Association.
Ashraf Ghani has been declared the winner following last year's elections in Afghanistan. The win is being disputed by the runner-up in the vote, Abdullah Abdullah. The Taliban has also rejected Ashraf Ghani's win, placing peace talks between the group and the United States into doubt. For more on this story, here's Margot Ben reporting from Kabul.
In 2014, Ghani and Abdullah had already fought bitterly over the job after the election results then, and the political deadlock was only broken when John Kerry flew in as a mediator, and it was finally decided that they would form a sort of national unity government. So this time around, nobody can predict how the crisis will pan out. And it's quite difficult at this very early stage to make out what's going to happen, what exactly Abdullah means by creating his own government, which again no one will recognize. But what's certain is that it will hinder the smooth running of the government, and it will also impact the ongoing negotiations between the Taliban and the United States. Indeed, an agreement between the two parties was meant to be signed very shortly, but this new crisis risks derailing the entire process.
That's it for this edition of Live from Paris. From all of us on the team, thank you very much for watching.
We are journalists, and normally you have to listen to us, but you have things to tell us too. Maybe you've experienced a dramatic event, or you've got something important to say. You want to make a difference. That is why we created The Observers. Now, the first step is very easy. You get in touch with our team. Send us your images, tell us what you've seen. And then it's our job to get your voice out there, on our site, on social networks, on your mobiles and tablets, and on TV, of course. You can appear in our weekly show via webcam. Or perhaps we'll come see you in person, where you live, in your country, your town, and we'll work together on a report for our investigative show, The Observers Direct. So you get the idea. This show is your show, your way to get your voice out to the world.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.